Okay, thank you so much. And now comes to our first panel. It's called AI Creative Products and Pipelines. So it's an online session, and we have the speakers and moderators online. So please join me welcoming. Here comes Ajay Jain from JAMO, yeah, and Nick Pezzotti, and Zhang and Ruihan Zhang. And Paige, I think we are welcoming Paige Bailey. So Paige Bailey from Google Command, and Ruihan Zhang, the moderator, and Sharon Liang. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone.
And me.
Hello. Yeah. So maybe I can start by first doing a self-introduction because I was the chief organizer of this MIT AI film hack in the first and second iteration. So now since I graduated, I'm now back as a speaker. Yeah, so today we are excited to have extraordinary panel of speakers here. Maybe I can do a more detailed introduction. So we have AJ here. He is a co-founder and CTO at JAMO, and the co-creator of the co-author of the denoising diffusion probabilistic models and dream fusion. So hi, AJ.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I was an MIT alum, so it's such a pleasure to be back speaking. I'm sorry I couldn't attend in person. Would have loved to be there in this energy-filled room.
Yeah, welcome. And next we have Paige. Paige is an AI developer relations engineering lead at Google DeepMind. So she is working on the VO2 models. I'm sure many of you are very excited about this model. So hi, Paige.
Excellent. It's great to be here. I was really, really sort of excited to see all of the videos as one of the judges this morning. And I also think that this media generation space is one of the most exciting for AI, not just in the near term, but also long term. So really love everything that folks are building. Wish I could have been there in person as well.
Thanks. And finally, we have Russell. He is the CEO and co-founder of Cyberfilm. Before that, he was working with product manager in the Silicon Valley and Seattle. So welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. And it's been a great event so far. I've met a lot of you in the Discord. So yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, now let's do a little bit of dive in. So maybe each of you can go around the table and share a little bit about your current work and how it is related to AI filmmaking. Yeah, we can start with AJ maybe.
Absolutely. So I started Genmo about 2 years ago. I'm one of the co-founders and lead our research teams. Genmo is an open source AI video generation research lab. We develop all kinds of technology up and down the stack, starting from the base foundation model. Most recently, we open sourced Mochi 1, which is a state-of-the-art open source video generation model, 10 billion parameter, made available Apache 2 license. I hope maybe during the hackathon, some of you get a chance to hack on it, build fine tunes, build on top of it. We've had about 3 generations of video generation models at Genmo, and it's made available through a publicly available product. We'd love to get into it more in the future.
Yeah, maybe next.
Yep, I'm happy to go next. So as a developer relations lead, what we're primarily focused on is making tools like APIs and then also platforms like VideoFX really easy to use for developers, for filmmakers, for anyone who wants to use generative models to help build and create screenplays, or you know, things like video footage for game development, or trailers for films, storyboards, all sorts of things. So it's been really, really exciting as well to see how folks are getting so creative at using models, not just to generate kind of the text content, but also images and full video snippets. And if you have any feature requests or any things where the models aren't quite behaving as expected, this would be extremely, extremely interesting for us to understand, not just from a tooling perspective, but also more long-term, how we can make sure that the models are a little bit more aligned with the interests of folks who are building out these kind of creative experiences. And I think, especially for me personally, I love the idea of models being complementary to human skill sets, as opposed to something that is handling the creativity for others. Because if you don't have a human kind of driving the storyline, I don't think that that these experiences will resonate as much as they could otherwise.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Great. Yeah, so our story started in during the pandemic. I was at JP Morgan's AI lab, but we were all working from home, just took night classes to pass the time, and Stanford offered some product management AI courses. So in one, we had to write a paper on AI disrupting an industry. This was like 2021. And my brother, we grew up making movies together. He's now in Hollywood. He's an assistant director. He writes novels. And so we wrote it on, again, how things will be disrupted, but here's, the change we want to see in the world. And here's the things that could go wrong, deepfakes of politicians, but how we can avoid it. And then when the original GPT-3 API came out, we built a prototype on it for my brother, just to help him with his writing, make more of his best work faster. And he would bring it on movie sets and be working on it during lunch. And this is before the Hollywood strikes, before ChatGPT was launched. So AI wasn't as controversial. And people said, like, wow, this is great. I can plug in an idea and it can help me flesh it out. It's like, I used to hire a script doctor for this for $10,000, and now it's accessible to me. And then when the image generators came out, we built, I think, the first storyboard application, added it to our scripting application, and we launched our app Saga. So hopefully you got a chance to play with it during the hack.
Yeah, great. Thanks everybody for sharing your story with generative AI in filmmaking. So I'm now very curious. Maybe I will pose a very challenging question here. We all know that we have a lot of tools out there. So I take a look at the submission forms, and I see a lot of people are using like OpenArt, Pixverse, Vidu, Kulin, many different tools. So what do you think is missing in the market still, and how can your product bridge that gap? Yeah, we can still kick off by AJ.
Absolutely. I love the ecosystem right now. I think the history of generative AI for me as a researcher was very quiet, solitary. Us hacking on likelihood-based models, trying to figure out how to drive down these likelihood bounds. Really, just for the passion of it, I wanted to see filmmaking emerge in the market and the capabilities improve. That said, we're really far. I mean, reality sets a very high bar, even getting to, let's say, median average iPhone shot of outdoor environment casually taken. We're super far from that. And then once we get there, we need to get to the 90 percentile, 99 percentile of content. Past that, it's really a question of personalization. What does the creator want to make? How do they control the story? How do they really get it personalized to the style and the message and the emotion they want to convey? So there's a couple of milestones we track at Genmo. One of those is just this, frankly, consumability. How good is the stuff? How good are the stories? How watchable are they? And I think the penetration on the market of AI video is actually very low when you consider how much content are Americans consuming, what fraction of it is influenced by AI. I think that is going to increase rapidly over the next couple of years, but we have our work cut out for us to get there.
Yep, I agree. I love the framing of reality sets a very high bar. There's been so much friction just for me personally as I create small videos, mostly music videos for friends tracks. Around right now, most of the tooling only allows you to generate short snippets of video. They still don't align perfectly with the direction that you might give via text. It's really hard to build consistency in terms of characters or in terms of style. And it's also still very much relying on a person to curate every single second, really, of the video and the film footage itself. So I've always loved this idea of generative models being able to reduce the friction from having an idea, of having something in your head, to actually being able to realize it. Whether that's a computer game, whether or not it's a book, or even a feature, a new change in a code base that you want to implement. And right now we have still a very considerable amount of friction between a filmmaker or an artist having something that they want to convey, and then getting it out into the world. So I'm hoping, in addition to all of these, wonderful models that are improving every single day, every single week, that we really give, tooling around editing, around consistency, style checking, post-processing, to the artists, such that they would be able to not have as much friction, to be able to find ways to clearly articulate, or have the tooling help them clearly articulate what they want to have generated by the models themselves. And we are very far away. It's been wonderful to see all of the tools, especially open source tools, and models get released, but there's still a lot of work to do before we get to have something that aligns more with kind of like an Academy Award, or that style of film out into the world that's completely AI generated.
Yeah. So it's super interesting. Yeah, agree with everything that's been said so far. And my mentioned my brother's a computer engineer, went back to film school, and he works on movie sets. He deals with scripts, storyboards, production all day. And so for the last almost 4 years now, every time we have Google alerts for everything. Every time a new tool comes out, we're testing it. Excuse me. And the Runway AI Film Festival, and Project Odyssey. So whenever there's a AI film competition, we'll enter it and we'll use it as a chance to dog food test all these tools. And it's funny seeing my brother. He's a VFX specialist. He's learned Unreal Engine and all sorts of different things to try to make movies, and he ends up with 12 different subscriptions. And then he still has to buy Adobe to put it all together in a storyboard app and pay for Final Draft. Each of these apps can be several $100s. And so that is what we want to build at Saga, is, an end-to-end, we call it idea to audience. So, every page of our app from left to right follows what my brother had learned in film school, or if you read Save the Cat or Story by Robert McGee or Sid Field Screenplay. So we help you work through the plot and the characters and then the acts and put together a beat sheet. If you don't know what that is, we'll teach you. If you don't know options for character arcs, we'll sort of give you a drop down. And then the script, it's like Final Draft with an AI co-pilot. So if you're ever stuck, you can ask it for help or rewrite. And then we move on to storyboards. So yeah, one of the first doing that, but then also we said, hey, we can turn our storyboards into previs, which is, state of the art, 5 seconds. Does the car drive through the frame, or is it a tracking shot? You can't tell that from a static storyboard, but you can with previs. And then, yeah, we're super excited about models like Google VO2. It looks like absolutely the best on the market. I've tried Saga, or Sora. I think it's better than Sora. So yeah, like these models, if they're going to be 40, 60-second shots and have an API soon, please, Paige, deliver an API. We love Gemini, and we want to be a multimodal, multi-model application. And by that we mean, when I first used ChatGPT, it couldn't do images. We built on GPT and we integrated Dolly too, so we had it before their Chat GPT even did. And if you want to use Chat GPT, that's fine. It's the best, but you're stuck with their image generator and their video generator. Whereas with ours, when we give you text ideas, it's multi-model. So you get a few ideas from GPT, a few from Claude, and so on. Same for video. We've integrated Luma Dream Machine. Next is Runway Gen 3, Haluo AI Minimax, Kling AI. They all have APIs now. So we're hoping it can be sort of end-to-end idea to an MP4 file that you can send to a film festival, upload to YouTube, and do it all in one place. So that's our dream.
Yeah, thanks, Russell, for your grateful insights. And my question will be following up on that. So how do you think the UI will evolve in this field? So right now, many of my friends are addicted to GPT or Gemini. They just spend their whole day doing homework by talking to it. So will the future be more of the UI that we are observing right now? Like you have some one panel of videos, one panel with a lot of buttons, or will
Yeah.
it be more of a conversational agent, or how do you think the future will be for the interface for this kind
Yeah.
of work?
Yeah, and I'll give a shorter answer this time. But
Okay.
so we never believed in we're trying to raise investment. I follow a lot of VCs and newsletters and seem to all agree on this. There seemed to be big agreement like, oh, everything's going to be voice and everything's going to be a chatbot in the future. And we never really believed in that because we would try to write a full movie script, 100-page screenplay with all the ideation in a chatbot. You're constantly scrolling back up for days, copy pasting things into another app anyways. It has memory, but short-term memory, but like it will hallucinate and it would forget our main character and invent a new one. And so we think people like UIs. I grew up before Windows 3.0, DOS terminal interfaces. People love UI, so we believe in that. However, to close, I will say our most requested feature was a chatbot panel to brainstorm ideas. And so after so long, we finally said, okay, people just want to have something to talk to outside the structure of our app. And so we did actually add that feature in last week just before the hackathon. So if anyone tried it, let us know. But yeah, I think user interfaces are making a comeback, and all the derision around GPT wrappers, I think, was a little foolish. I mean, Instagram, you could say it was a database wrapper, right? And all their moat was a photo filter. Wow, who cares? But should have invested in them. And you could say the same for Salesforce, all these other web apps of the SaaS era. They're wrappers. People use APIs, right? Uber doesn't want to build Google Maps. They want to use an API. Probably everyone in the room doesn't want to set up servers like Mark Zuckerberg used to have to. You want to use AWS. So yeah, I think UIs are going to be important.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think especially in these more specialized verticals, the real magic for projects and for products is going to be coming from people who are able to deeply understand a problem space and then understand how to apply AI to it in a way that feels natural for all of the folks who are tackling that problem space. And so from a model building perspective, at DeepMind, we care very deeply about building the best models that are generally useful for a broad spectrum of tasks. And so like understanding what tasks people need to do is very important so we can make sure to have the right data, which feeds the right models. But all of the nuances around user experience and ergonomics and usability, ease of use, all of that needs to be happening at the product layer. And so those are all of the tools that Russell and AJ are working on. I think that's going to be where the most interesting companies get built in the next few years. Is we have research labs that can tackle a lot of the model building processes, and then all of the work around really getting that crisp and integrating it into developer tooling or to creator tooling, post processing. All of those things need to happen at the kind of downstream options.
Maybe I'll take a little bit of a slightly contrarian take here. I strongly believe in product, to be clear. I mean, I was a product guy, built lots of mobile apps, learned my first programming language was PHP because I wanted to make websites and interfaces and applications for people to use. And only then started figuring out, oh, there's some technology pieces missing here that we need to slot in to actually make this application possible. But has anyone seen a Celery Man from Paul Rudd or Westworld? Uh, both of those have, I think, quite interesting, maybe a little bit far off, but quite interesting, somewhat compelling voice interfaces for world building. Um, there's an alignment problem. I think when we try to build agent interfaces around filmmaking tools, at Genmo, we had one product with 400,000 people on the wait list for right after GPT-4 launched, which was a kind of command line interface, um, agent interface for film building. The problem is that you start getting these interfaces where they don't quite align with the user's expectation. You know, they promise to offer the experience where you can make anything from just a few words, but then things start to break. It's kind of like pushing on a string. You want the end point of the string to get where you want to get your final film, and you push on it, but it kind of doesn't go exactly the way you want it to go. On the other side, if you look at Westworld or Salaryman even, there's this dream that the interface dissolves away. There's no interface, just my ideas, just my fast iteration loop with the computer. I think that would be a dream. In the meantime, we still need interface, right? We need interface so that you can put the guardrails on, so that you can control. It's kind of a very, very long chain of steps required to make these final products. It's not just one modality. I see video as the mother modality from which everything else hangs. Story, visuals, language, kind of language is invented in a visual world. So in order to create this very complex web of media, you need some interface. But that interface, I believe, will change over time. And I hope, fingers crossed, that we can delete one button a year, perhaps a month as we go along.
Yeah, great. Thanks everyone for sharing your insights in this topic. I have a follow-up question on this because many of you mentioned about alignment, controllability, and how to have the agent to have long-term memory so that it doesn't hallucinate. So this year, I checked the submission. I think we saw more people are using 3D creation in the backend, and then they use Unity or something to animate it. I think this has a clear benefit because you can have a very consistent character, and then you can let this character move and turn around and still look like itself. So I also brought up this question in the last year's panel about controllability and character consistency. So maybe you can share your ideas about how do you think the future will be? Will it be very important for this entire AI film tools to take off? And how can we achieve that? Yeah, thanks.
I believe in personalized models, customized models. I mean, we open sourced Mochi 1, um, in October last year. And the belief here is that by empowering developers with the ability to kind of get their hands in the mud,
Yeah.
deal with the clay, you could build in these layers of consistency. So what did people do? We open sourced, after we open sourced the inference stack, we realized, okay, actually it's really hard to train these models, even fine-tune them. So we released the training code too. LoRa training, customization. People have built incredible things on top of that. You needed 8 H100s at first. Then when we open sourced it, people squeezed it onto a 3060 GPU. They started training LoRa's. There's a LoRa I saw the other day. That's super fun. It's an infinite pinch zoom effect. So if you apply the LoRa to Mochi, you can kind of infinitely zoom in hierarchically on your phone. People have done a lot of things like this. You can also fine tune it for identity consistency. For example, if you have an actor or a character or yourself, you go out and take a couple of casual shots, and then you can fine tune the model to personalize it and get your consistency. That's not the final story. I think there'll be new layers on top. But by building in the open, our hope is that people will be able to take the technology one step further. They don't run into like a brick wall when the API doesn't have the feature they need. They can run through that wall and take it all the way.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe Paige can also give your input because I know Google is trying to host it on Google Cloud so that you can even do it without a GPU yourself. Would that be great? Yeah.
I do agree that that techniques like LoRa fine tuning are really powerful. We do have options for our Gemini models as an example for folks to fine tune on their own data, or to augment it with things like retrieval for the more text based models. With Imagine and with VO, we've also attempted to add some element of controllability or steerability with being able to seed the video with an input frame. So oftentimes I see people create a 6-second clip, and then they use the final frame from the 6-second clip as kind of the input frame for the next 6 seconds, which does build a little bit of consistency. But for I would imagine that just as we offer some sort of element of fine tuning or customization for the Gemini models, that's something that that would be interesting also for VO and for Imagine to help make it a little bit more steerable. The usage of Unreal and Unity, I think, is really compelling as well. Just because, you know, it's really challenging. I believe there was a paper that came out recently noting that even though it might seem like the models have developed some sort of basic intuition of physical concepts or the laws of physics, that's actually not the case, and that most of the generated videos today are still in a point where it might look realistic, but it still doesn't align with everything that we might expect in a real world environment. And until we do get into like purely physical science parody with generated films, I think you know, Unreal and Unity can help fill in those gaps. So again, all of these kind of like additional developer tooling or customization layers, apart and aside from the process of building the model itself, are still going to be needed and very meaningful in the near term.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and when we made, my brother and I, we wanted to make a 10-minute short film with as much AI as possible. It's like, and we're like, there's a reason why all the viral AI films are just like fake movie trailers for movies that won't exist, because the shots are so fast and the characters no one can keep track of. You don't know who's supposed to look like what, and you don't have to see people talking. You just see someone like, whoa, looking away from an explosion, and it's all voiceover, right? Which is what a trailer is. But so we wanted people talking. We tried to use state of the art, you know, Mid-Journey Runway Gen 2. This was a year ago. And yeah, it's just that no consistency and the talking was off. So we had to your question, switch to 3D. So we used AI for like the B-roll and some of the scenes in outer space. And then when it's people talking, we had to just do motion capture with you know, the iPhone recording your face, and we used Unreal Engine MetaHumans. And so I think even to this day, it's really hard to get character consistency. That's why in our app, we're waiting on some features. One of the problems being early stage, 3-person startup, where we don't have 100 million to, you know, try to build our own model, and other people are trying to solve this anyways. But the good thing about storyboards when we launched them in like 2022 is the consistency was bad. Yeah, you'd have an extra finger, but storyboards are not viewed by the audience. They're used just for the blocking and to set up the scene, and you throw them in the garbage. So we kind of ended the features at that. And then our plan is, you know, as these APIs allow us to pass more images in, what we'll do is on our character page, we'll let you upload, like if you've cast an actor, or generate images, like here's their headshots, portrait style. Here's, you know, in the dressed as Clark Kent versus dressed as Superman. Same for set locations. And then even let's say you're on shot 4 of scene 2, we'll pass shots 1, 2, and 3 and the character reference image and everything, and say, okay, based on all of this, give us a storyboard. So we're hoping that will help with consistency. But most of the APIs right now, you can upload an image, but you can just only edit that one. So we're hoping to solve it in the future, and that's when we'll you know, become more of a movie generator as opposed to just script and storyboards.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for sharing all kinds of thoughts here. So as I think we are close to our time, so I will ask one final question. So this year, we picked the theme as Dance in Life, which is quite challenging, turns out, because many people, when they have their characters dance, it just completely broke. We have extra legs, extra hand, and very scary. So what do you think? This might might be just one of the limitations of current AI. There's many other limitations. Like it's also hard to make the style consistent even, or the color grades consistent. So if there's can only be one thing that you want to focus on this year, what would that be? And what can we expect by the end of 2025? I know this field might be slowing down a little bit now. So what do you think we can expect by the end of this year?
"2025 is going to be exciting. It's already shaping up to be a good year. I don't think things are slowing down. You know, I think expectations are growing. I think excitement is brewing. When it comes to these problems like extra legs, extra fingers, you know, these weird oddities, it's actually a kind of a special moment in time. I think we should relish it while it lasts, before these models slip away and get a little bit too good. Uh, but you know, the guiding principle at Genmo around research is kind of to focus on the bits that matter, both in terms of, you know, as a startup, as an entrepreneur, using our resources wisely. As a small company, we have venture funding, but we don't never have the resources of the big company, right? The biggest, the most well-funded companies. Yet somehow we were able to get to the frontier, release a model with a fraction of the resources, a tenth of the resources, just right up there on the top of the leaderboards. Then from the technical side, focus on the bits that matter to me mean these models, they can't model the entire distribution, everything at once. And I think you have to play a little sleight of hand in order to convince the audience what's happening. No different than regular filmmaking. If you look at a Pixar film, they're not modeling the entire scene. You'll see people with broken jaws, weird contortions in order to deliver the right message to the audience. And so we're doing a bunch of core research around how do we make it so the models actually capture the information, compress the distribution in such a way that it is compelling, that is realistic, it immerses the viewer without necessarily expending all of the energy in the universe to train that model. So 2025, I hope we will get there. We'll get to some level of immersion that will be enjoyable.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. Paige, do you have any input?
Yeah, well, from my perspective, which is I suppose a little bit different as a developer relations human, the thing that I'm excited about in 2025 is hopefully being able to get you know, all of the experiences around VO2 a little bit more democratized. You know, I believe right now video effects is on a wait list. So I'm really hoping that we get more people testing it out, trying it out, building things, and helping us understand how to make the models even more useful, more compelling for what folks need. I'm also just very selfishly, I started my career in open source, and you know, blame open source for getting a geophysicist, applied mathematician into the tech industry at large. So it's been exciting to see tooling come out in the open source space around generative models, and even get to the point where it's becoming at parity or exceeding the capabilities of some of the more corporate research labs. So in addition to seeing the growth of utilization of these paid service APIs, I'm really hoping that we can see open source models, smaller models, maybe even models that are small enough to fit on devices, that can do some of this work and still be relatively high quality. So that's my hope for 2025. And if anything, like whatever my hopes have been for previous years, all of the expectations exceed those hopes. So if that's still holds true for 2025, we're going to have a very exciting year.
Yeah, and I'll say just to the topic of dance and life, when we started a blog in 2021 and things started picking up 2022, and in Canada, some of the producers conventions would, hey, this AI thing, we're hearing about it, come talk to us. And one of the examples we would show was, and I'm going to post it right now in the chat and maybe you can share it, is this film called The Crow, and it won the jury award at Cannes. And it was basically a ballet dancer, and they did a video-to-video style transfer to paint a crow over it. Just absolutely beautiful. So that's more of an aside. What we're looking for definitely and excited about is music. So Suno and Udio, if they don't get pseudo to oblivion, because we're making a feature film and we wanted original score. You know, had to pay like $25,000 to get an original score for your movie. And what if we could integrate that again with an API in our app? It can follow the storyboards and the script, and you know, as the action gets more exciting, you know, the music ramps up and down, and that's going to be really cool. And then what we want for everybody is, and I love these film competitions when they invite us to participate, is the storytelling element. So a lot of the winners from Project Odyssey, the world's biggest film competition, a couple weeks ago, were in the narrative category, and a lot of the ones that, you know, were pretty good, but people were upset they didn't win, and I'd watch them, and it just sort of collections of moving things and sounds, and you know, people want to see that hype is done with. No more AI movie trailers are going to go viral. You know, Wes Anderson made Lord of the Rings. Like that's you. It's time. I think I would love to see the real democratization of Hollywood, where people. Martin Scorsese says everyone has a story to tell, right? People all over the world, not just the connected in LA, make stories and have characters with arcs and, you know, 3 acts and a theme and lessons. And that the visuals don't need to be that good. Like if you remember, well, this is dating myself, but the first episode of The Simpsons on the Tracy Ullman show, the animation was about as bad as it gets. Same for South Park, right? First episode, just paper cutouts, but the characters and the writing were so good, people fell in love. So I think we're going to see in the steps of Mr. Beast, like or the D'Amelio sisters, like people will post stuff, videos, short films, little skits, like the Andy Samberg digital shorts, Lonely Island, you know, Please Don't Destroy, go viral on TikTok, go viral on YouTube, have a story, characters, great dialogue. And that's how we're going to see, you know, more people get into filmmaking. And that's why I think AI won't reduce jobs. It would be like CGI. You know, there are more people doing CGI in the end credits of a movie now than there ever were making models and costumes, you know, in the 70s and 60s and 50s. So I think it's going to grow the pie, and I'm very optimistic.
Great. Thanks everyone for your insights. And yeah, I think the audience has learned a lot from this panel. Thank you for coming today and hope you have a great work and your company startups or jobs or take off this year. Yeah. Okay, I think that's the end of this panel. We will hand over to the next session. Thank you.